Welcome back, rock stars. This is Mr. Benoit with a little more help on some of the practice problems in Code High School Lesson 7. I'm going to go through a few, particularly 727, replace a letter part 1, 728, replace a letter part 2, and then 755, which was, I forget. We'll find that out in a second. Okay. So on this one, I've copied and pasted the information from the exercise into the top. They want us to write a function called replaceAtIndex that will take a string and an integer, right? So that means that they're going to have a string and an integer parameter. They're going to have a string and integer input. The function should return a new string that is the same as the old string, except with a dash in place of whatever character was at the index indicated by the integer, right? And then we should test it using the word eggplant and index 3. Okay, so we want a function, so define. It should be called replaceAtIndex. So I'm going to paste that in, and it's going to take as input a string and an integer, right? So we're going to have two parameters on the interface, my string, my index, that are going to do the work for us. Okay, it's a function. I need to end the first line with a colon. Okay, now they say we should, right? We want to do the output, say outString equals, we want to replace the character at the index with a dash. Okay, so the outString is going to have my input string up to that index, right? So if it's eggplant, so 0 is E, index 1 is G, index 2 is G, index 3 is P. So I'm going to want the first three letters. So I'm going to say, give me string until 3. Okay, and that will give me 0, 1, 2. That's the first three letters. Okay, and now I want to have a dash, outString equals outString plus a dash. Okay, and then I want to have everything after index 3. So how in strings can I do everything afterwards? Come back up to this one. Remember on strings, we can give it, for slicing, we can give it three values: a start, a stop. We can also give it a step, right? So if I want characters 0 until 3, right? So stop before index 3, I could say 0, 3 by 1. Okay? 0 is the default, so I don't need to say it. 1 is the default for step, so I don't need to say it. So I can just say, give me until 3, right? 0, 1, 2. Same way when I want afterwards, I can say my string. I can say, okay, well, I want everything after 3. Well, what's the index after 3? That's 4. I want till the end. Well, what's the end? I don't know what the end is. I could use length here, but Python likes us. They can say if you leave it empty, we'll figure out what the end is. Okay, so here I've done it with integers. Let me run it quickly. If I do replaceAtIndex with eggplant and the number 3, I'm just going to run it. I'm not going to check it. See if my code runs. Come on. Didn't do anything. Oh, I need to print it out. I make that mistake so often. Run code. None. Oh, I got to return it. Return outString. How about that? Run code. Lant. Oh, I'm not doing a plus here. So the last one, so I did outString equals the first 3, and then I did outString equals the previous outString plus a dash, and then I just said outString equals 4 to the end. I didn't say my previous string plus that, right? So I need to keep adding to it to build it up. Okay, so this gives me eggplant. Now, but if I run it again and I said replace the character at index 6 with a dash, if I run that, it still gives me eggplant, right? So I need to replace these numbers, right, with index, right? So how would I do that? Well, I think, right, if we put it back to 3, how do we get 3 from my index? How do we get 4 from my index? You guys can figure that out. I'm going to plow ahead. Replace a letter 2. Okay, 728, part 2 for replace a letter. We're going to make another function, replace at index, that takes 3 arguments. A string, an integer representing an index, and another string. We're going to return a string that's the same as the first string, except with the character at the specified index replaced by the second string. Oh, so it's like the previous one, but instead of putting in a dash, we're going to let them give us a character to put in there instead. And we're going to ask the user for the input and what to replace and where to replace. Okay, so it's kind of a little bit built on top of the previous one. Let's go back to the previous one. Okay, we're going to copy our code, and we're going to come back to 728, and we're going to paste our code in here. Cool. So now they say we need 3 arguments, a string, an integer, and a second string. So that second string is going to be the new character, so I'm going to actually call it new character, and hiding some stuff here, right? So I didn't update the 3 and 4 to actually use my index previously. So what we want to do, so it's the same idea. I can put the 3 and 4 back in here. You guys can still figure out what to do with it. Instead of dash here, I just need to use new character. And then I'm going to ask them input string equals input. What is your word? Oh, actually they're giving me what to say. Let me copy and paste. Copy and paste is your friend in comp sci. Enter a word or a phrase. Input index equals int of input of, enter an index value, copy, paste, add a space, close it up, input character equals input, enter a new letter, space, close it up, and now I'm going to call replace at index using input string, input index, and input character. Okay. Now I know it's going to do it at 3, but let's go ahead and run it. Now I have a bad input on this line. Again, when you get an error message, it's not always necessarily at the line it is. Sometimes it's on the line above. I look at this line. I got 2 parentheses. I got 2 quotes. It looks pretty good. Let's look at the line above. I got 1 right parentheses and 2 left parentheses. So I'm missing a left parentheses. Let's check quotes, 2 quotes. Okay, so that should be good. Let's try that. Enter word or phrase. Let's do Fred. We want to replace character 2 to be L. Right? And so it made, instead of making fled, it made frel, because my replace at index is using this hard-coded 3 and 4. Okay? You guys can figure out how to fix it to actually use my index. Right? So if this was eggplant and 3, right, how would you convert this to use my index instead of 3 and 4? Okay, you guys got that one. Let's go on to 755. Contains a vowel. Okay, in my previous video, I actually walked through this one. Some of you are trying to solve it a different way, which is awesome. Right? I love that you guys are trying to do this stuff without my help videos to begin. But you have a conceptual problem. You have a bunch of you are saying something like this: if, right? So you say if A or E or I or O or U, is in input string, you're going to return true, else return false. Okay, so you're saying if any of these 5 letters is in input string, then it contains a vowel, otherwise it doesn't contain a vowel. Let's run that code. Enter a string of lowercase letters, Fred contains a lowercase vowel. Well, that actually worked. Try it again. Enter a string of lowercase letters. I'm going to type in something without any vowels. F, G, H, J, K, L, M, N, B. Contains a lowercase vowel. Okay, so for Fred it said it was true, but for this jumbly word it also says it's true. So that's not working. And the problem is, whenever you do an OR, right, it wants the left side to be true or false and the right side to be true or false. So what is it doing with this big long thing, right? Which should, right, it can't really evaluate, well, is A true? Well, it's something. Is E true? Something. It's not empty. I don't know if it's true or false. It's something. I thought Python might give us an error. It's not giving us an error. It's just saying everything we give it is true. So we can't do it that way. Okay. If I wanted to do this way with an if statement, I would have to do it shorter. Right? So I could say if A is in string, or if E is in input string, right? Or if I is in input string. We just run that. I'm going to do Fred. Fred has an E. It should say true. Run it again. Type in junk, FGH, like that. Run that. Oops, FGHJKL. Enter, does not contain. So this would work. You would have to add all 5. It would be better if you actually did it with a, sorry, it wouldn't be better. This is a perfectly valid way of doing it. If you want to do it this way, finish the work. Okay, that's it for this time. See you next time.